Welcome, everyone. We're going to get started in just a moment. I want to give a chance for everyone to get logged in. I still see that some people are coming on and joining us. And so, as people are joining, we'll officially start in just a moment. But as we have people starting, for those who are on with us, just want to remind everyone that this webinar is a series of webinars that we are offering throughout the year. You can view some of our previous webinars at compassionatefriends.org/webinars. And you can look at our archives and view at your own leisure any of those webinars that have happened so far. All right. It looks like we have most everyone. We'll go ahead and officially get started. My name is Andy McNeil, and I'm with the Compassionate Friends. And it's my honor to support this presentation today, kind of in the background. So I'll be sort of the man behind the curtain today. But we are delighted to have Laura and David Crum presenting Apart from Us, but always a part of us today. And I'm just going to go ahead and turn it over to Laura and David. And Laura, David, thank you so much for sharing this webinar with us today. We appreciate you. And I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Well, thank you, Andy. We're honored to share this today.
Yes, we are.
And it's an especially special day because it's actually our Dylan's, it would be his 31st birthday today. So when the dates that were available came up and I saw June 22nd, I said, let's do it then.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So we're
Definitely.
happy to be here. And this, as Andy said, is apart from us, but always a part of us. And we're going to kind of share our story and some experiences we had and some experiences we've learned of that are very similar. And what usually happens is we see a lot of people nodding their heads and agreeing that they've had things happen.
Same thing happened to them. Yes.
And just how we've been able to navigate through this. And of course, it's always changing. But I'm just going to go to our next frame. And you'll notice I'm probably the one that's going to do the majority of the talking. But I do make sure he talks too.
Yeah.
And but it works well. So anyway, this is our family of 4. Dylan is our oldest son, and he's back here behind my shoulder, holding on to my shoulder. And then his younger brother, Gavin, is down there in front of Dave in this larger picture. And of course, you see several different phases and stages of life together.
Off to school the first day.
One of our favorite places was Disney World and all that kind of stuff. So here's a little description. Before they're born, our children become our main everything. Everything that we are. They're a big part of us. When our children die, we immediately begin to experience deep emptiness brought about because of them being apart from us. And as we all know, it's so difficult and we don't want to even get used to it, especially in the beginning. Very soon, we begin to wonder how we'll ever survive now that our children are no longer in this world. As our journey through the grief of both of our sons continues, we continue to learn and share the evolution and transformations of the life we now live and how we stay intentional about keeping them included in each new season and experience we encounter. We hope to encourage other grieving parents to discover meaningful and relevant ways in which they too can keep the loving memory of their children present in their own lives, and through sharing our experiences and the experience of others that we know. So that's kind of the overall idea of what we want to be sharing with you today. And I'm going to have Dave read this little poem.
If someone you know did not make it, if someone you love did not make it on that trip, you can take it for them or with them. If someone you love did not witness that milestone, you can show them any time you like. If someone you love did not get to do their living, you can finish those dreams on their behalf. The beautiful thing about love you see is that death need not stop life. If you carry someone in your heart, you can take them with you anywhere you like. I love that poem.
Of course, none of that makes it any easier.
Doesn't make it easier. No, it doesn't.
So we're going to just do a little bit more introduction. Dylan and Gavin were brothers, are brothers, and
Best
also
friends.
they're best friends with each other. They were about 2.5, maybe a little closer to 3 years apart from each other, but were in many, many activities together. Most of their teams and things, scouts and band, they were all pretty much together and kind of depended on each other to make decisions.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did.
So this, again, there's more of these pictures of first day of school and just always side by side. And this is when Dylan was born. He was a preemie. He was 2 pounds when he was born, developed into a fine young man, and we're very proud of him. And yeah, he came a long way. And there's some more pictures of him, always smiling, always friendly, polite. And here's Gavin. You can maybe look and see on the expression of his face. He's a little bit more of the character,
Instigator of things. Yes.
He was also a preemie. He was 1 pound 13 ounces when he was born. So they had a lot in common, almost everything in common. And very special boys, of course, to us. And there again, that impish joking around all the time. He loved Transformers. We have a whole lot of Transformers up in his room
Yes, we
still.
do.
Okay. So the 4 of us, we loved to call our family the 4 of us, and we did so much together all of the time. Went on weekend trips, went on day trips, planned bigger vacations, did just activities together, and just loved being together as a family. Dylan, when he was in 8th grade, was a pretty accomplished trumpet player already. He loved playing in the jazz band, and this picture was of him playing a solo in the spring concert in May of 2010. Less than a month later, he was in a bed in the hospital. He had been on life support and was taken off of life support, and they continued to do treatments. He had been diagnosed with pediatric follicular lymphoma. And it was kind of a surprise because it started as a sore throat, and we didn't think too much of it until he didn't respond to antibiotics and all kinds of things. And one thing led to another. And before we knew it, he was in the hospital, diagnosed with this type of cancer. And he never got home. He was in from the end of May until July 15th, which is the anniversary of his death. So in 2010, and July 15th, his life ended. And one of the things that we discovered so soon afterwards, you get through those first weeks and maybe a couple of months, and people are around and they're surrounding you and bringing food and all that kind of stuff. But all of a sudden, you feel that switch, and when you're still talking about the sadness, about how empty the house is, about being worried about Dylan's younger brother, people are ready for you to get better.
To move on and get better.
Um,
I know all of you
yeah.
experience the same thing.
Yeah. So we thought about that, and I always, luckily, because we had been involved with Compassionate Friends, we learned that most of the time we're the ones that have to teach other people, even though we're the ones that are in the most pain. And I always love this. I thought I would have to teach my child about the world it turns out I have to teach the world about my child. And that's what we felt committed to doing. And amazingly, Gavin agreed with us and was on board with us, I should
That's
say. And from what we've heard from a majority of people with younger siblings or older siblings, they just don't talk about their siblings, and their own grief. But for whatever reason, we were privileged to have that close sharing all the time. So when people would kind of, back away if we started to talk, all of us, the three of us, were able to just kind of push it a little bit and do things that seemed a little unconventional, unconventional to other people. When it came to that first Christmas, it was only about 5 months after Dylan's death. We used to always send cards out with a family portrait of the four of us. And I just couldn't imagine not including Dylan. And we didn't want to ignore Christmas, especially because of Gavin. And I talked to a local photographer, and it was really a good experience for us to go work with her because she had experienced loss of her own, not of a child, but just enough close losses that she respected what we wanted to do and to keep Dylan present in our lives and everything. So she took several different shots, and this is just one of them, showing the three of us still keeping Dylan close in everything we do. And this is the fog of grief, and we don't need to read through the whole thing, but I've heard that terminology many times. Like, you feel like you're in a fog when you're going through it. You don't always realize what you're doing because you're in pain. You're trying to get through the next day, trying to get through whatever it is you're supposed to be doing, whether it's work, whether it's getting ready for something. And it's just really
you're just trying to go through your daily routine, your boys are still, or your loved one is still with you, and then, I mean, I still do it to this day. You still, did I actually do what I was just supposed to do? Did I forget? Yeah.
You put the milk in the cabinet and the cereal in the fridge.
Find it the next day. Yeah.
Yep. And even here in this last little paragraph, it's a robotic existence and you're forgetful and confused. And I'm sure, can all attest to those experiences. And here's just some other thoughts. It took an instant to lose you, and it'll take my entire lifetime to grieve the loss of you. And again, because we were able to talk with people and be part of meetings, we learned that it is a lifetime. Grief is a lifetime. It's not something that takes 2 months or a year, and then you're over it. It's something we have to learn to live with, and it's not easy. But we tried, and we kept working together. Again, we were grateful for those years that Gavin was with us. He enjoyed being in the sibling group when we went to 2 conferences. The first conference we attended was in Minneapolis, and it actually started on the anniversary of Dylan's death, and we couldn't think of a better place to be. We had already experienced people wondering why we were still talking about Dylan, why we were still hurting so much, and why we just couldn't let it go. And I know maybe some communities and maybe different areas of the country are different. We live in Lehighton, Pennsylvania. It's a little bit north of the Lehigh Valley, a little bit more north from Philadelphia. And it's just a little, for a lack of a better term, a little more backward with social, what's happening. And even though other places in the country might be, for lack of a better term, improving with how to learn about grief, it's kind of dragging along, and it's getting there. But anyway, we could feel it, and we knew it would be very uncomfortable to be home for that first anniversary, and that's where we went. And, it was just so good to meet people, walk together, sit together and go to sharing sessions and just know it was okay to feel the way we did.
Gavin got a lot out of it too. In fact, when at the end of the uh, Compassionate Friends gathering where they announced where they're going next year, I mean, it was going to be in California. Gavin looked at us and said, "We're going." He made
He
the
was the
decision.
one, yeah.
He made the decision up for us. We're going. We no second thought. We didn't even ask him. He just said, "We're going." So, and that's what we did. And we included a trip, some side trips in while we were doing that.
In fact, we extended the trip quite a bit.
Yep.
Dave has some family that lives in Hawaii, so we figured if we're on the East Coast and we're flying over to California, we might as well just go a little bit further and go across the ocean and visit some people in Hawaii. And it was an exciting experience for all of us. And it's a place that Dylan always wanted to go to. So we were taking that trip for Dylan. And then on the way back, we didn't come directly home. We went to Phoenix because Dave has other relatives there, and we went to visit them. And then we took a trip up to the Grand Canyon and did the train ride through the canyon and things. So it was a long trip, but it was a great time because we kept Dylan with us the whole time. In fact, if you're familiar with Flat Stanley, the book, one year Dylan's class did that, and he sent his Flat Stanley, his Flat Dylan, in an envelope to his cousins in Hawaii. And Flat Stanley had the chance to surf, and we have all kind of pictures of them. And it was just really special. So we took Dylan's little Flat Stanley with us to the trip, and it was special. But then I'm sorry, here we go. As you can see, this is Gavin in August of 2012. And then this is Gavin the end of October in 2012. He was being treated. He had been, I'll back up a little bit. We got home from the trip, and one morning before school started, he came downstairs, and it seemed like overnight he had this huge lump on his neck. And of course, we were startled, and we tried to make it anything else it could be. But after trying to make it something else, we knew we had to take him to be tested, and they did a biopsy, and they discovered that he had ALL, leukemia, different type of blood cancer than his brother. They said it was very treatable for the most part. We took him to a different hospital just because it had only been 2 years since Dylan was sick. And they were actually calling Gavin Dylan when he was there for the biopsy because everybody knew us. And it was just too much. And they were able to send us to a different hospital a little bit further away. But the whole process was very, very similar. He ended up on life support when the treatment started as well. And from being diagnosed officially on like September 15th, Gavin died on November 27th of 2012. And then we came home, and it was really difficult to come home to an empty house. Just the two of us. And it was very dark. And I love this picture. I found it somewhere because it shows the darkness, but there is that light just sneaking through the cracks. And at first you can't even notice that. It's just dark. And if we just kind of back up a little bit, one of the strangest experiences we had when Dylan died is when we got home.
I was going to mention that.
People were so afraid
It was,
of us that nobody came to our
it
house.
was like 2 days before we got,
Yeah, before even my parents would come to the house.
yeah, before anybody called or talked or
And
visited.
yeah, and we'd like find a cake on our front porch or a casserole on the front porch, but nobody was there. We all kinds of very kind, loving things, but they just couldn't even face us. And it was just such an isolating feeling. So when this
yeah.
happened, and I remember my sister calling and said, "What should we do?" And I said, "Please be there."
We don't want to come home to an empty house, is what we said. And
it didn't make it better
No.
or easier, and yet it felt
there were people
somewhat
here.
comforting.
There were people here who welcomed us back to our home in the best way they could. You know,
But again, we had to be the ones to kind of
Kind of-
help them understand that
yeah,
this is what grieving people should have, or what we felt we needed anyway. So now here we are in this empty house, and we think of all of the shattered dreams that will, what can our life possibly be like now? All the things that we had looked forward to. Neither of our boys made it to high school. They were both in 8th grade. Dave never got to teach them to drive. We didn't get to see them go to their prom or graduation, or, get a girlfriend, or, get married, or any of those things. We think we have an idea of what they might have done, based on their interests, and we kind of dream our way through what they might have been. But it's been hard, and, we just, as you all know, it's just shocking, and you just don't know how to take that next step. And of course, the death of our children changes everything about our lives. And you start to wonder, are we still parents? Especially, when our only 2 children have died, are we, and how do we go on without them? And what do we do now? And who are we? And you obviously, your relationships with people, your family, your friends. Sometimes you thought they were friends and they are not. All of a sudden you have friends that you never dreamed would be your friends. For us, it was very hard to remain very active in our community and our church and our social circles. And we were all, as a family, very involved in community and church music, did a lot of things together. And
did a lot of our grocery shopping at our one store was 24/7. So we did a lot of our grocery shopping 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, because, during the day, you've probably all experienced it. You walk down an aisle, you see someone and then all of a sudden
they turn around.
they turn around, pretending they forgot something in the other aisle, and they'll go the other direction. So we didn't want to deal with that. So we had the whole store to ourselves some nights, and that was that's how we handled it. That's what we were.
That's
faced.
one of the things.
One
we
of the
did.
things, and I'm sure
We
all
also
experienced it as
sometimes
well.
would choose to go to a different county and go
Yeah.
shopping there.
Yeah.
Where people didn't know us.
Yeah, we
because-
did that for quite a while.
And again, I'm just going to say it felt better, but I guess that's the word to use. Rather than be with people that we knew and knew that they didn't want to be around us. But as far as like what we were involved with, all of a sudden we felt in our heart like, well, our boys should be here with us, and we can't be here if we can't mention them. And we felt that wall go up every time we would mention Dylan or Gavin's name. And it just got to the point where we had tried really hard to stay active, because everyone's like, oh, you need to stay active, and you need to stay in your music, and you need to keep doing these things. And it just hurt too much. And we just pulled out of all of that. And it was not easy, but it seemed easier than sitting there or being part of something and participating and pretending that we were okay. We just could not do that. For me, as a music teacher, I was an elementary music teacher in a district for 25 years. And I took a sabbatical after Dylan died. I was off for a year and I went back, and that first year back was awful. It was hard. It was very hard. If I adjusted, but it took a lot out of me. By the time I got home every day, it was hard. Um, I was back for a year, and then the next school year started, and Gavin was diagnosed in the middle of September, and I walked out of my classroom one day and did not return. And I didn't know I would never return to that job, but I did. I didn't. It got to a point where I wanted to take some more time off, and the administrators didn't like that idea, and they gave me a deadline of when I should get back to school
Or don't come back.
or don't come back. And I didn't even blink. I said, well, I'm not coming back. It just wasn't worth it to do that for me. And it depends on your job, and it depends on the people you work with. But my situation was not good. And I thought, well, that's not going to be healthy for anybody. So I didn't. But Dave, if you want to kind of explain your work situation during that time.
They were, I mean, very generous. We spent 24/7 when our boys were in the hospital. We spent 24/7 with them. Either both of us were there, or when Gavin was with us yet, I'd take Gavin home, or Laura would take Gavin home and spend
Spend a night.
the night with Gavin. But either way, I had to take time off. They gave me let me use my personal days. They let me use all my vacation days. They let me use all my sick days. There was no question whatsoever. I didn't have to fill out any paperwork. They just did it for me in house. They just said, come back when you can. And which was awesome in both cases, for Dylan and for both Gavin. It was the administration was very, very caring and supportive. So, which was great. Like I said, my wife had a different situation. I mean, I work for a school district too, but I'm in the electrician maintenance department. So, but it was just like night and day for how I was able to take time off. Now, for Dylan, Laura obviously it was during the summer months, so she had summer off, but still, we were both there 24/7 with both of her boys as much as we could, or all the time. We always had one of us was there 24/7.
Yeah, with one of them or both of them,
Yeah.
sometimes all together. But ironically, after time went on, I did start to miss teaching. As I was learning, you keep learning, you keep gaining tools and experiences that help you adjust. And fortunately for me, I was able to find out about a part-time teaching job, which is very unusual. And I interviewed for it, kind of with a very light heart, because I thought, whatever, I have nothing to lose at that point. And I got hired. And then by the next school year, it was a full-time job again. And I just retired after spending 10 years in that district. And it was a very pleasant experience. And I know I was able to talk about my boys, and it also helped me to find friendships and people that were willing to hear and were willing to learn more about grief and be a little more open about all of that. And it's been rewarding in many ways. In fact, it's pushed me into something I hope to do more of. I started doing some in-services geared towards schools and how they handle grief, because there's kids walking the halls that have had some major losses. There's been students that have died. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later, but sometimes it's really hard for the school community to talk about all of those losses. And they kind of clam up like society in general does, and probably any workplace does. So anyway, moving on. These are just some things, and I just always throw these in during our live presentations. I just left them in. This is always a good one. Without you in my arms, I feel an emptiness in my soul. I find myself searching the crowds for your face. I know it's an impossibility, but I cannot help myself. And especially in the earlier days of grief, but really any time. There's just times you just think they have to be here. They have to be wherever you are. If you're on a vacation, you just think, oh my gosh, I want to see them here with us. And it's always going to be there. We miss them. And this is a really good quote that I've heard many, many times. You don't have to experience grief, but you can only avoid it if you're avoiding love. Love and grief are inextricably intertwined. Yeah, and that's for sure. You can't focus on one and not the other. Here's something that has been a lifeline, and I know people always shake their heads yes and agree. Don't let anyone who hasn't been in your shoes tell you how to tie your laces. And we had so many people offering us advice, and all it did was hurt more most of the time. Here's another David Kessler quote. I always like, people often say, I don't know how you're doing it. I tell them, I'm not deciding to wake up every morning. I just do. I put one foot in front of the other because what else can I do? And I'm kind of paraphrasing, mostly because I can't read the whole thing, but you get the gist of it. And life continues. And even though there's days you don't really feel like you want your life to continue, what choice do you have? You have to be part of it. And for us, our choices, our boys are going to continue to be part of our life. I'm just going to take over these. It's too many. So here are some of the things that we've done, and probably more intense ways in the earlier years. But here was Dylan's first birthday. It was a year after his death. And at the time, a lot of people did balloon releases. We don't do them anymore, but we did. And the very first time we decided to do this, we invited everybody. We invited friends. We invited family. We had a yard full of people. Luckily, we could cross right over into a big field to release lots and lots of balloons. But at first, when people were invited, they were a little puzzled, I guess would be the word. Why are you having a birthday party for Dylan? And like, well, Dylan is our son and we miss him and we are going to honor his birthday. And once they were there, and once we wrote messages to Dylan, wishing him a happy birthday in heaven and released them, they felt different when they left that night. And that felt good to the three of us. And that's Gavin right here too, of course, helping release the balloons for his brother as well. And there was, significant milestones for each of them, their 21st birthdays. We tried to create an alcoholic drink that maybe they would have liked based on things that they enjoyed. Dylan was a Dr. Pepper person. I don't think we ever really came up with anything that he would mix with that, but I don't know. But he loved the color blue, so we made some kind of a tropical blue drink, and that seemed fun. For Gavin, his favorite drink was Mountain Dew, and again, we kind of made some kind of weird potion, just to kind of honor that big milestone. of, what would have been at least his first legal drink. Um, but yeah, but we just tried to always keep them close and in everything we do. And these are just obviously pictures of different um, balloon releases for different birthdays that we did that. Eventually we changed to different activities instead of the balloons. One year we did a butterfly release in our backyard, and that was very nice. And then it just became gatherings, and we did some of those lanterns that you light it and release into the air as well. But lots of things. There's a lantern, more balloons. We always hang their Christmas stockings every year for Christmas time. We don't decorate like we used to. We don't get a Christmas tree for our house anymore, but we do get a Christmas tree, and we actually put it in the cemetery for the boys. And I know we have an example of that somewhere. And again, in the earlier years, we always were sure to put ornaments of some sort with Sharpie markers in a little tub underneath the bench at the cemetery so that people could come in, and we'd ask them, please stop and send a message of, a Christmas message to the
Hang an
boys.
ornament on the tree.
And it was always comforting when we would go by and stop and read some messages and know that somebody had stopped that day. And it was helpful. And it was a way to kind of open that up. And maybe they would not have talked to us otherwise, but it helped us. And I think it helped them as well. Okay. When Dave turned 60 a while ago, it was during COVID. And I ordered 2 of these silhouettes, these boy silhouettes with balloons. And I put them out, while he was away at work that day. And I put a little sign up, and I asked everyone to just write a note about what it might be like for Dylan and Gavin's dad to be 60. So again, not a day goes by that we don't miss them, but on special occasions like that we would have been celebrating together, we still want to keep them close. That a little bit before then, when I turned 50, we have memorial trees in our front yard, one for each of them. And I asked my family and friends to come, and we got glow sticks, and we put 50 glow sticks on each of the trees. So it took a lot of help and a lot of hands. But again, there were tears and there was laughter, and it was just a way to kind of bring people together and make them, for lack of a better term, a little more comfortable, with acknowledging all these big milestones. All of a sudden, people were sending us gifts like little banners with Dylan and Gavin's name on to add to our garden. And we're always proud of it. And it changes, of course, every year as the trees grow and everything. But we still try to keep it, a big part of what we do. So people that go by go, oh, there's the boys' trees. And that makes me feel good. These lilies down here. This was special because this was one plant that at the time I had no idea it was Gavin's last Mother's Day on Earth. He got that plant for me. And we planted it in this side garden. And then that next year he died. And when Dylan's birthday came up in June, we noticed that we had planted them out there, that they had bloomed on Dylan's birthday. The next year, they bloomed on Dylan's birthday.
To this day.
This morning I went out and took pictures of all of those beautiful,
birthday,
yeah.
blooming.
So obviously it doesn't just pop out all at once. It was starting, but we knew that by
they're all in
today.
full bloom today.
Yeah. So other things that I've done in my classrooms, I always had the boys' pictures on my desks. There was things, and I'm sure I have pictures somewhere. I always wear a necklace that has the boys' pictures on, and I almost always wear that. And my students would always go, "Are those your kids?" And I would just say yes. And then they go, "Who are they?" And I would say, "This is Dylan and Gavin." And that's all the further I ever had to go with that. But I wanted them to know that I'm Dylan and Gavin's mom. Um, my bulletin boards in school. Dylan was a trumpet player, Gavin was a drummer. I put those little subtle or not so subtle things there. If I had music notation, I would put D's and G's on the bulletin board, on the spaces and lines where they belonged. Our two kitty cats are actually the boys' cats. I found these posters, and it just so happened this was Dylan's cat, the tuxedo cat playing the trumpet, and the other one was the drummer, and it just seemed perfect. And I always got a little extra comfort, I guess, out of having that surrounding me. And I didn't necessarily share that with students, but a lot of my coworkers knew why that was there. And that always felt good to have that extra support there. There's things that we have in our house and things just all around us that we just do, and it just seems so natural to us. This little cut out apple with the pie symbol. Dylan brought that home on March 14th when he was in 8th grade. And he just thought that was the funniest thing. That the teacher said, "Let's make apple pie." And so that's what he brought home, and he gave it to me. As we're sitting here, I'm looking at where that's hung. It's still there today. As silly as it is, it's just a piece of construction paper. I don't want to move it, and I won't until I have to. But yeah, that's just a part of him that's always going to be in our house. I just recently moved the toothbrush and all of that stuff that was Gavin's. It was on the bottom shelf in the bathroom. As you can see, it was all Transformer stuff. But I just couldn't move it. And I'm like, well, I don't have to. And it takes a while. And we're having a hard time because we're about ready to do some major renovations. And it forced us to move things, to touch their bedrooms, which we kind of let them sit for quite a while until we actually took things out and moved them around. And it's been an emotional journey, but we were a little bit more ready to do that. Speaking of Transformers, every time a new Transformers movie comes out, we have to go.
We go.
We try to go on opening night if we can, for Gavin and for Dylan. They both liked it, but Gavin was absolutely the fanatic. This is a story that kind of helps solidify some of our determination. And I'm going to let Dave tell the story.
It's our school district. I'm sure other districts do it as well. I know they do. Usually on one of the last football games, they have in the fall, they have senior night where all the senior sports members, and even they include the band and any other sports
Activities.
The senior gets to walk across the field
with
their parents. So we thought, I wonder if we'd be able to do that, as their parents are walking across, and the announcer gives a little outline about the child and what he's involved with and what their story is. And we requested through the school district if we could possibly do this.
Now, first of all, I'm just interrupting. We assumed that we'd probably be invited to do that, and we weren't.
We weren't. So anyway, we presented. We asked to contact the school district and asked if we could possibly do this. And the high school principal showed up called us one day and said, "Do you mind if I stop in and visit?" And we said, "Sure." We thought, well, maybe he's going to say, "Yeah, okay, you can do this." And he came, and he's kind of quiet, sheepishly, he just, we presented it to the staff. I mean, to the staff, and they kind of felt that it would not be a good idea because
I don't think it was the staff.
the other administrators, it probably wouldn't be a good idea. And we said, "Oh, okay." And he just kind of left it, apologized. And
Well,
said,
he spoke about the school psychologist not feeling it was healthy, and I looked at the principal. I said, Dylan's classmates know he died, and he's still part of the class.
Yep.
Um,
So anyway, he left then, kind of sheepishly. He went briskly left, and we're kind of sitting there. And Laura said, "Well, I'm just going to post something." Unfortunately, we were
I
just
didn't even put in for. I was very neutral. I just said we just found out we are unable to walk
the
across.
field in honor of our son, in memory of our son. And well, it kind of went viral. That we had school board president calling us that night and saying, "You're going to be
You will walk.
you will
the
walk
field."
across that field." And we also understood, we heard that one of Dylan's classmates had actually started a petition in school, having all the kids sign saying that we want to walk across, want Dylan's parents to walk across in memory of Dylan. And it ended up, the principal called the next day and said, "Would you mind if I stop back to your house?" And we said, "Sure." And he stopped back and said, "Yes, you're going to walk across the field in memory of Dylan." And then he also added something. He said, "Since we, the administrator, are in charge of graduation, we would like to," because we asked for maybe possibly getting a diploma. He said, we're going to invite you to his high school graduation also, and present you with a high school diploma for Dylan." And one thing came out of it as well. The students went, the students were thrilled. In fact, the students actually wanted to do this and wanted this to happen. And his classmates actually printed T-shirts up. It says, "This is for you, Dylan." And the whole class was wearing them. They were just, even though he was in 8th grade when he passed away, they still wanted
Well,
him.
It actually became finally their outlet.
Yep.
Because they were in middle school and Dylan died in the summer, and they walked into a new school and they weren't able to talk, and nobody offered them any chances to talk about their classmate. And this was finally their time, and they really were very passionate about it.
So it pays to advocate for your
And we advocated obviously for Gavin as well,
And
and also for so many others that sadly have died in the district as well.
And in fact, there was the high school graduation this year. There was a girl that passed away a couple weeks before graduation, and they had a chair for her, and
another student
Another
died in
student
elementary school.
died in elementary school, and they had a chair for her. So it's something that they're doing. We raise the awareness.
Yeah. So, we were able to have that. This is a picture of Gavin's best friend for his graduation. He actually brought the diploma to us, and handed it to us. And the rose was on the chair. This picture over here of the empty row of chairs, it was indoors that year because it had rained. And one row would go up to get their diplomas at a time. And Dylan's name was just read in alphabetical order. The principal brought the diploma to us, and it didn't take away from anyone else's night. I think some parents were maybe afraid that it was going to ruin things for their own kids. And instead, I think it was
We had a lot of people come up to us
enriching.
afterward and say that was neat. You had to have
Yeah.
that done. That was a
Yeah.
good thing
It
that
was
happened.
good for everybody.
Good for everybody. So it's,
But there's just things that we continue to do, just everyday things. Our boys love the snow, and we will try to reenact things that, or, do something to represent that. So there's Dylan and Gavin in their glory, and there's two snowmen that Dave built. And there, I think about you all the time because we do. We do. There's the trees in the snow, and blue and white lights. Both of them love the color blue. We wear an awful lot of blue ourselves. Um, we're having our kitchen renovated, and there's going to be a theme of blue, to keep their presence there with us, uh, because it's a different kitchen than what they grew up in. When we go to the beach, we always send a message and let the waves take it wherever they can, for Dylan and Gavin to have that message. We have a goal, and one of our goals is to get to all 50 states, because we were going to try to do that as a family. And little by little, we're getting there, but we've gotten to visit some beautiful places already. Alaska, Hawaii,
Arizona.
yeah, Arizona, of course, and we just always are doing that for our boys. Here's something that I still am toying with. We had the swing set in the backyard, of course, and throughout life, we had the boys' pictures in all different ages and stages on their swings together. And then one morning in the snow, I took this picture when it was still up, and Dave didn't have the heart to take it down, and we didn't know what to do with it. I took this picture. Eventually, he did take it down, and we saved the one ladder. And I just still have this vision of somehow creating something with photos of them at different stages in the different rungs on the ladder. So, there's just always ways to find creativity, I guess, too. And we always try to come up with different ways. One of the most, I'm going to call it maybe our trademark, I don't know what else to call it. We had a hard time with our family and holidays. We were expected to just be there, but not to be sad. Everybody else was allowed to carry on and have their traditions, and we felt so empty all the time. And a lot of times we just leave early and not go. And again, we've learned so many things from other people, when we talk to people and listen to workshops ourselves. We came up with this idea first for Dylan. We started to take a single rose to holiday like meals or some kind of special occasion, and just put it in a vase and put that vase in the middle of the table, because we weren't allowed, and I'm just going to say it that way, to speak their name or shed a tear.
Or just have an empty chair for them
Yeah,
at the table.
so we would do that, and eventually it caught on that, oh, that's Dylan, that's representing Dylan. And of course, then when Gavin died, we definitely continued with 2 roses in a vase. And it's simple enough, it doesn't take up room, and people now know exactly what those 2 roses are for. And then part of what we do as a ritual is, at the end of the day, again, it's a small town. Most of the time we'll take a walk over to the cemetery and just leave those roses at our boys' grave sites. It just kind of is part of what we do. There's a bench that we have in the cemetery, and that's just one of the times when we laid the roses on the bench. Sometimes we put them right next to their stones instead, but it's just something we do. Again, years later, we went back to that same photographer. I think it was our 25th wedding anniversary. So we gotta keep our boys in there. And she came up with some very effective ways to just help us express that at the time. We've done things like it took us a long time to ever consider going back to Disney World. But here we are. The boys always teased Dave about Goofy. Dave was their own Goofy. When we went back, it was probably about 6 or 7 years ago now. I went back to run a half marathon there, and we took that picture along with us. And this picture with Goofy doesn't have it in it, but we do have another shot where he is holding the picture. So it was really nice that we got to share that. There's the roses we took. We even had roses there. I know we're getting short on time. So we just, again, reenacted lots of things to go back to where we knew they loved to be. And there's the Transformers. Rainbows are special. They show up over our house.
People
So-
send us rainbows all the time, pictures.
This was, oops, I'm sorry. I just need to get back to that one. This was just last summer in out Mount Rainier waterfall, and there's a rainbow. And we figured that was a nice connection for us too. So yeah, I know we're running short on time, and I know Andy probably wants to see if there's some questions, comments. I can't hear.
We have a few questions and some comments, a lot of comments around the intentionality with which the two of you continue to make your sons part of your life. There were a number of comments around that, and then some questions around that. One question that comes up is, was that a conscious decision, like intentional, to say we're going to continue to have Dylan, of course, first, and then Dylan and Gavin be intentionally a part of our lives, each day, or when and why? Like, how did you, or was it just more organic at the way that it happened?
I would say it kind of was organic in a way, but it was also intentional because we learned. We were very fortunate to be able to talk to people at meetings and say, our family isn't very receptive, and our friends and our community isn't really helpful to let us talk. And I would always say, I don't think we could possibly live our life not talking about them. And of course, we had other people suggest what they've done or knew that other people would do to remember their children. And it helped. For lack of a better way to explain it, we felt more confident to do those things because we knew it wasn't crazy, even if
Right.
people around us thought it was. And I don't know how else to describe it, but I hope that makes sense.
People have come,
Yeah.
they've become comfortable with it. There's Dave and Laura, if they talk about their kids, that's fine. We want to hear it. So it's totally changed the outlook, some people's outlooks on,
At least to a degree.
to a degree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. It's like it's a shifting culture in a way. It's reteaching people some of the things that our culture says is normal actually isn't, and these things are, right? How many people go into
The
hiding
natural, yeah.
with their grief, right? Because we don't want to be judged by others. And I know we're running short on time, but there was another question that I just wanted to pose that and this actually comes from me, and it comes from so many people who have said this to me. So I'm going to ask it of you because it does seem very intentional about the way you've kept your children as part of your lives, but it also, even the way that you've chosen to advocate for like to teach people, like people don't know, and so you're having to teach other people, right? And as you were talking about toward the beginning of the conversation, And I've had so many people say to me, and you know, I resent that I have to do that.
Mm.
So the question really is, did you experience resentment about that, or like what brought you to say, you know, resent it or not, I'm gonna help people understand some things that they don't know. Like where does
Exactly.
that
Right.
come from? Yeah, yeah,
I guess, again, for lack of a better word, I'm going to say the desperation of us needing to hear other people remember Dylan and Gavin.
Yep.
yeah,
And know it,
No, we
you
didn't
know,
resent
that,
it at all. I mean, it's
oh,
something we
well, yeah, I mean, I think you do that, you have
have
to
to
do
do it,
it,
but you know, it's
but how else would it
how
happen? I
else would it
guess is
happen? So it's, yeah, exactly.
right. And in doing it, you have seen that certainly not everyone, because we don't have control over everybody,
right.
but you have seen it impact
Oh, yeah.
other people's lives and reshape their
Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
on
thinking.
the other side of that, it's made us make some really tough decisions in not bothering with certain people or groups or activities
Yeah,
anymore,
yeah,
because it just does hurt too much to
Yep.
know that
yeah.
we can't. So,
And that's where you don't put your energy there because it's
Exactly.
not going to profit.
Re-
And I'll just make one more remark, and that is as you shared about uh, graduation, the gift that you gave their friends
yeah.
to be
Yeah.
able to have that. I've spent a lot of my career working with children who have had the death of of a sibling or a parent
Mhm.
and how they are excluded, and it
Yeah.
becomes silent pain and grief.
Yeah.
And what a
And more
gift you gave.
isolation and
And I think
Yeah,
in the district we both work at, it's unfortunately it's happened there too. And I think probably them knowing us all the years that we've been there and what we've been through, it's kind of led them to do the same thing. They presented diplomas and invited the parents back and put a chair out
yeah.
with flowers on. Just twice now it's
And
happened.
it makes us feel bad too, like when we hear the stories from other friends that we do know that we're not
We're not
allowed
allowed to do it.
to have their child remembered, even, like a week before graduation when a boy was killed in a car accident, they wouldn't include him in the graduation.
Graduation.
Like, so it's
yeah,
sad to know that it's happening and it does happen, but
right.
hopefully
So we feel we've made we feel we've made a change in that
contribution.
contribution.
Well, well, I would say that you have, and that's how change happens. Is that we just keep advocating for it, so we create a better world for for us to be able to for not only us to exist, but for other people to exist
Yes,
and to get the support they need. Well,
absolutely.
thank you. I want to give you the two of you. I know we're just a few minutes over time, but I wanted to give you the two of you the chance to have a last word, and then close us out. And then I'll just say to the audience, thank you for participating. Thank you for coming. We bid you a peaceful evening, and I'll let Laura, you and Dave
All right.
have the last word.
Okay. Well, thank you for allowing us to share today. Again, it's not easy. I mean, some people think, oh, well, they become part of you and then life is easy. And that's not the case. And I know you probably all feel that way. It does still hurt. It's still a lot of work. Um, it never ends, but you do learn tools and just sharing with other people is, I think, one of the biggest helpful parts of getting through this. So we're not walking alone. We need not walk alone.
I'll agree with Laura. I mean, I'm so sorry that anybody listening to this podcast has to be listening to this podcast, but it's what we've learned, through this to continually advocate and provide support for us,
For everyone, yeah.
everyone that has to be in this part of this compassionate friends, or it's just we help each other, and
Well, thank you again to both of you.
Thank
I know you don't do it to be an inspiration to others, but you have inspired people today, and you are an inspiration to so many people, Laura and Dave.
That's
And
our
again, I bid
boys.
everyone
Our
a
boys.
peaceful, I bid everyone a peaceful evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.